Dawn breaks over the Ardennes Forest on May 10, 1940. The air is thick with tension as German soldiers prepare for what will become one of the most audacious military maneuvers in history. Operation Fall Gelb, the invasion of France, is about to begin. As the first rays of sunlight pierce through the dense foliage, something unusual is happening among the German ranks. Soldiers are reaching into their pockets, not for cigarettes or lucky charms, but for small pills. These aren't ordinary pharmaceuticals, they're Pervitin, a methamphetamine-based stimulant that will soon play a crucial role in the lightning-fast conquest that will shock the world. Before long, the order comes down the line. Engines roar to life. The invasion begins. What follows is a display of military might and speed that will rewrite the rules of modern warfare. German Panzer divisions slice through Allied defenses like a hot knife through butter. Infantry units march for days on end with little rest. The Luftwaffe maintains a relentless assault from the skies. To the stunned Allies, the German forces seem superhuman. Their endurance, focus, and aggression appear to know no bounds. French General Maurice Gamelin, caught off guard by the Germans' unnatural stamina, famously exclaims, "Surely these men must be on drugs." Little did he know how right he was. The blitzkrieg that overwhelmed France in just 6 weeks was indeed fueled by more than just military strategy and superior equipment. It was powered, in part, by methamphetamine, a potent stimulant that allowed German soldiers to push beyond normal human limits. This is the story of how drugs, particularly methamphetamine, played a significant role in the Nazi war machine. It's a tale of short-term superhuman performance and long-term devastating consequences, not just for the individuals involved, but for all of Europe and ultimately humanity itself. To understand how the German military came to embrace methamphetamine, we need to step back to the interwar period. In the aftermath of World War I, Germany was a nation humiliated and economically devastated. The Treaty of Versailles had stripped the country of its military might, imposing strict limitations on the size and capability of its armed forces. Yet, even as Germany ostensibly complied with these restrictions, a clandestine rearmament program was underway. Under the guise of civilian research, German scientists were working tirelessly to develop technologies and substances that could give their military an edge in future conflicts. One of these scientists was Dr. Fritz Hauschild, a researcher at the Temmler Pharmaceutical Company. In 1937, Hauschild synthesized methamphetamine into a tablet form, which Temmler began marketing under the brand name Pervitin. The drug was initially sold over the counter as a stimulant to combat depression and fatigue. However, it didn't take long for the potential military applications of Pervitin to become apparent. The drug's effects of increased alertness, reduced fatigue, and enhanced confidence seemed tailor-made for warfare. By 1938, the German military had begun discrete tests of Pervitin. The results were striking. In one trial, a group of 90 college students were given Pervitin and asked to perform a series of complex mathematical problems. Despite being sleep-deprived, the students performed exceptionally well, showing both increased speed and accuracy compared to a control group. Dr. Otto Ranke, director of the Research Institute of Defense Physiology, became a strong advocate for the military use of Pervitin. In a report to his superiors, Ranke wrote, "The medication can effectively eliminate the ability to fall asleep for 12 to 24 hours without any significant side effects." As tensions in Europe escalated and war loomed on the horizon, the German High Command saw in Pervitin a potential solution to one of warfare's oldest problems: fatigue. The ability to keep soldiers alert and active for extended periods could be a game-changer, especially for the fast-paced, mechanized warfare that German strategists were envisioning. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, Pervitin was already being distributed to troops, though not yet on a massive scale. The real test came with the invasion of France in May 1940. The Blitzkrieg strategy relied on speed and continuous movement to overwhelm the enemy. Panzer divisions needed to keep pushing forward, day and night, to prevent the Allies from regrouping. Infantry had to keep pace with the tanks, often covering vast distances on foot. Pilots were required to fly multiple sorties each day. To meet these demanding requirements, Pervitin was distributed widely among German forces. According to Norman Ohler's book, Blitzed: Drugs in the Third Reich, between April and July 1940, More than 35 million tablets of Pervitin and Isofan, a slightly modified version, were shipped to the German Army and Air Force. The effects were dramatic. Soldiers reported feeling invincible, with boundless energy and unwavering focus. This chemically induced stamina played a crucial role in the stunning success of the French campaign. German forces advanced with a speed that caught the Allies completely off guard. The Panzer divisions of Heinz Guderian and Erwin Rommel covered hundreds of kilometers in just a few days, far outpacing Allied expectations. Heinrich Böll, who would later become one of Germany's leading post-war authors, wrote in a letter home during the invasion, "Perhaps you could obtain some more Pervitin for my supplies. It makes miracles." This compulsion went all the way up to the top of the ranks, as Adolf Hitler himself harbored a dark secret that paralleled the very essence of his regime's hypocrisy. While publicly promoting an image of physical and moral purity, Hitler was, in fact, a man gripped by a severe drug addiction that would ultimately contribute to his downfall and that of the Third Reich. Hitler's descent into drug dependency began innocuously enough in the 1930s when his personal physician, Dr. Theodor Morell, started treating him for stomach ailments and fatigue. Morell's unorthodox treatments included a cocktail of vitamins, hormones, and various stimulants. Over time, this escalated to include more potent and addictive substances. By the outbreak of World War II, Hitler was regularly consuming a witch's brew of pharmaceuticals. His daily regimen included Pervitin, and cocaine eye drops were administered to brighten his eyes before public appearances. Oxycodone, a powerful opioid, was used to dull his chronic pain. Perhaps most bizarrely, Hitler received injections of extracts from bull testicles, a pseudo-scientific attempt to boost his libido and vitality. Even though Pervitin fueled the German war machine to early victories, the cracks in this chemical solution soon became impossible to ignore. The side effects of prolonged methamphetamine use, including anxiety, hallucinations, and extreme aggression, began to manifest among the troops. Some soldiers started to experience what they called Pervitin anger, sudden, uncontrollable outbursts of violence. There were reports of German troops shooting prisoners of war in fits of drug-induced rage. The lack of sleep, combined with the constant stimulant high, began to take a psychological toll. To make matters worse, the come-down from Pervitin was severe. Once the drug wore off, soldiers were left exhausted, depressed, and often unable to function effectively. Some turned to alcohol to manage the crash, creating a dangerous cycle of uppers and downers. Despite these warning signs, the initial success of the Blitzkrieg campaign convinced the German High Command of Pervitin's value. As the war expanded to new fronts, so did the use of the drug. In North Africa, Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps relied heavily on Pervitin to maintain their grueling desert campaign. The harsh conditions and long supply lines made fatigue a constant enemy, and methamphetamine seemed to offer a solution. On the Eastern Front, as Operation Barbarossa launched the invasion of the Soviet Union, Pervitin again played a crucial role. The vast distances and harsh climate of Russia posed even greater challenges than the Western Front had. German soldiers were expected to march up to 60 kilometers a day, an almost impossible feat without chemical assistance. As the war dragged on, however, the long-term consequences of widespread methamphetamine use began to surface. Addiction became a significant problem among German troops. Many soldiers found themselves unable to function without the drug, leading to erratic behavior and decreased combat effectiveness when supplies ran low. The physical toll was equally severe. Prolonged use of Pervitin led to heart problems, malnutrition, since the drug suppressed appetite, and severe dental issues, a condition that became known as Panzer chocolate mouth among German soldiers. Perhaps most critically, the drug's effects on decision-making became increasingly apparent. The overconfidence induced by methamphetamine led to rash tactical choices. Commanders high on Pervitin would often push their forces beyond reasonable limits, leading to overextension and vulnerability. This drug-fueled recklessness may have contributed to some of Germany's most catastrophic military decisions. The choice to invade the Soviet Union, despite the enormous logistical challenges and the lessons of history, has been attributed in part to the sense of invincibility fostered by widespread stimulant use among German leadership. By the end of the war, Adolf Hitler's drug use had spiraled out of control. Eyewitness accounts describe a man increasingly detached from reality, prone to wild mood swings and irrational decision-making. During military briefings, he would rant for hours, fueled by a cocktail of stimulants that kept him awake and agitated. In quieter moments, he would slump into a stupor, his body racked by tremors, telltale signs of withdrawal. The irony of this situation was stark. The Nazi ideology glorified physical fitness and racial purity, yet its armies marched on the power of synthetic chemicals. Hitler himself, the supposed embodiment of Aryan superiority, was a trembling addict, his body a battleground of conflicting drugs. The aftermath of this large-scale, state-sanctioned drug use was catastrophic. As Germany crumbled in the final months of the war, hundreds of thousands of soldiers found themselves addicted to methamphetamine. The psychological and physical damage would haunt many for the rest of their lives. Additionally, the aggressive, often inhumane behavior of German forces, particularly on the Eastern Front, can be partially attributed to the effects of prolonged stimulant use. While in no way excusing the atrocities committed, the role of methamphetamine in heightening aggression and dulling empathy cannot be ignored when examining the brutal nature of the Nazi campaign. The impact extended far beyond the military. In the final years of the war, as Allied bombing disrupted supply lines, civilians in Germany began to experience withdrawal en masse. Pervitin had become widely used in factories to boost productivity, and its sudden absence led to a wave of depression and fatigue that further crippled the German war effort. In the immediate post-war period, the consequences of widespread methamphetamine use contributed to the challenges of reconstruction. Many returning soldiers struggled with addiction and the long-term health effects of prolonged stimulant use, adding to the already monumental task of rebuilding a shattered nation. It's important to note that drug use in warfare was not unique to Nazi Germany. Many nations, including the United States and Britain, experimented with stimulants during World War II. However, the scale and systematic nature of Pervitin use in the German military set it apart. In the decades since, militaries around the world have continued to grapple with the question of performance-enhancing drugs. While official policies generally prohibit such substances, the pressure to push human performance to its limits remains a constant in military thinking. In the final analysis, the story of Pervitin and the Nazi war machine is more than just a footnote in the history of World War II. It's a cautionary tale about the limits of human enhancement, the dangers of unchecked evil ambition, and the profound moral questions that arise when we attempt to transcend our natural limitations through chemical means.